Welcome to the Essentials Workshop, a workshop where we promised to give you a ton of information, and now we're looking at it and going, we've got a ton of information to get to you, so much stuff to cover here. And so this is going to be one of those workshops that will certainly in some ways bounce over the top of stuff, will tell you where things are, will help you even realize that ways are there. Basically what I'm going to cover is everything it will take to be a full-time fiction writer in 2012, 2013 here. Everything. Every detail that I can manage to cover and everything else. So there's a lot ahead of us here in this workshop. But I'm also going to be, if you don't want to be a full-time fiction writer, which is perfectly fine. I mean, you know, some of the best writers on the planet were never full-time. That's perfectly fine too. There are some elements about being a full-time fiction writer that are somewhat bumpy at times, although not as much as they used to be here in the new world. It's perfectly fine. You can scale back any of this stuff that I'm talking about here, but unless you know it's all there, unless I give you the overall picture through this workshop of the essentials of what it would take to be a full-time fiction writer, then you won't know where you can scale back and what to do and what's not important and what's important and where you can go and that sort of stuff. One of the major things I talked about in the Ideas to Story workshop is the saying, "Oh, I could never do that." Boy, I'll tell you, when you're listening to these videos and you hear yourself say, "Oh, I could never do that," that was a whiteboard falling off the wall. Oops. Okay, well, I'll edit that out. Back from the whiteboard repair. Back to the topic at hand. If you find yourself in this workshop saying, "I could never do that," put a gigantic asterisk, write it down right at that moment in time why you're thinking that. Chances are it came out of some training somewhere that has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of reality. But you need to really focus on any time you hear yourself say, "Well, I could never do that." Well, that's an automatic knee-jerk reaction that will hold you back. Now, making decisions to do something or not do something from a business or personal perspective, totally different thing. But that knee-jerk, "Oh, I could never do that," when you hear me talking about something, "I could never do that," just instantaneously write that down at that moment and say, "This is where I have an issue." Because if you're automatically thinking that, you have an issue. And that's what this workshop is here for, is to help you through those issues. And that's going to come up a lot here, guys. It just is. There's no way around it. You're going to have to get past that. And if all the way through this thing you're thinking, "Oh, I could never do that. Oh, I could never do that." What's the point of taking this workshop? I mean, that's the bottom line, because you're just stopping yourself from a whole bunch of teaching that's coming out of your high school or your 5th grade teacher or somewhere else. So get over that right now. Make a big note on that. Again, it's going to be fine to scale this back into any place you want. I want to be clear here. There's every writer is different. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I'm also, through these tapes here, these videos, I'm going to be talking about what you need to learn. And so I'm going to come up on an area and I'm going to say, and this is you can learn, and I teach a workshop in it, or Kevin Anderson teaches a workshop in it, or somebody else does. If that's the case, or you can get it at your local community college, stuff like that, then that's perfectly fine. Just realize that, okay, what I've done is I bounced over the top of something and said, there's a big area here you need to pay attention to. And then you need to decide whether it is something you're good at or something you completely lack. The key is if you're afraid of it, afraid of the area that I say you probably need to learn, then you probably lack it. Because fear comes from lack of knowledge. Once you know something, you're not afraid of it. And so that's one of the highest things I'm going to do all the way through these videos, is say, this is an area that needs to be learned. This is an area that will help here. This is an area that will help there. Because there's no way in the world that, I mean, we'd be here for an entire year, week after week after week after week, dealing with all of this stuff if I tried to teach it all here. And you all would be bored to tears and everything else. So it's better to take these things in chunks and pick it up when you need it, as you need it, and everything else. Okay. The other thing I'm going to be talking about, again, this first tape is just overall, here's what's coming, besides whiteboards falling off walls, is that the aspect of publishing now is a combination of things. You may have this great egotistic desire to go to only to traditional publishing. No issue. Do it. Good luck. You know, and I'll tell you how. And some of these assignments and different things we're going to do are going to be part of the how to get there. And another side of this is the indie publishing side, which has just exploded in the last 3 to 4 years. And it is a very valid way in. In fact, I'm going to basically teach here a combination of the two. But I'm going to tell you how to go either direction. I would highly recommend that you don't cut off one direction or another. Simply by saying, oh, I'm never going to go traditional, means that you'll never sell anything to Hollywood and you'll never sell anything to overseas because they're traditional. Okay, so say you've got a book up indie published and a publisher in Great Britain wants to come to you and give you $8,000 for the British rights of your book to publish it in paperback in Britain. Well, if you've automatically said, no, I'm not going with any traditional publisher because of some problem you have, then you're going to turn that down? You know, no, probably not. You know, it's one of those things where that's a traditional publisher. You know, French rights, they want to translate into your stuff into German and sell it in Germany in translation. You're going to turn that down? Give you $5,000 for translation rights of your novel that you've been selling 50 copies a month on Amazon? Probably not. You're going to let them go ahead and take the translation rights, and you're going to do a contract, and you're going to sell it. But that publisher is a traditional publisher, folks. And so, you know, it just, WMG Publishing here, frighteningly enough, if you look at it from all the details, it's WMG Publishing Incorporated. We have a whole bunch of employees running around here and more coming on. You know, it's just the truth of the matter is that we're headed towards being a traditional publisher here at WMG. So get that thought out of your head of I'm never going to go indie or I'm never going to go traditional, because for the next 6 weeks, open your mind to both sides, because you may find a path. You may hear me outline a path and you'll say, ooh, if I just change this over here and do this, you know, then I can do both ways. Then I can get the best of both worlds. My wife and I, Christine Catherine Rush and I, both believe in going both ways. We both have novel contracts with New York publishers, and we both are indie publishing through WMG because we helped start this company. And so, you know, it's a matter of you can do both. And so it's keep that in mind. Keep your mind open all the way through this. And again, listen to that key phrase that will trigger an area that you've got a problem with. When you hear yourself say, oh, I could never do that, write it down and start figuring out where the heck that came from. Okay, I'll be back and we'll get this thing started here.